Alrighty, boys and girls, here we go. It's our Math Module 6, Lesson 9 homework. And today you are, I guess we don't need the homework helper, do we? So we'll be doing the actual homework. We're going to be expressing the lengths in the shaded parts in decimal form. Then we'll write a sentence that compares the two lengths. Use the expression shorter than or longer than in your sentence. So if we look, this is a meter stick right here. And we can see it divided into tenths, and then these smaller pieces are going to represent hundredths. So if we look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know we've got a 6 in the tenths place, and then it looks like we've got 8 in the hundredths place. Okay. Over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 tenths, and there are no hundredths. So if we need to then compare these, I would say that 68 hundredths is shorter than 7 tenths. Wouldn't you agree? Okay. And we can put a period at the end of that sentence. When we look over here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to be looking at that as 5 tenths, no hundredths. Over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to have 4 tenths. And let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 hundredths. So when I look at these, I see this first one, 5 tenths, is longer than 44 hundredths. Okay? Then it asks us to list all 4 lengths from least to greatest. Well, if I want the smallest, I'll look at my tenths place, 6, 7, 5, or 4. Well, 4 is going to be smaller. So I will start with my 44 hundredths. Next up will be my 5 tenths. Next will be the 68 hundredths, and finally the 7 tenths. Now, if you had wanted to write them up and down, you could have done that. And when you write them up and down or vertically, I recommend lining up the decimals, because when you line up those decimals, it really does make it easier to see the different numbers you're going for, 5, 6, 7. And it's just kind of easier to keep place. But again, you could go across if you wanted, or you could be vertical. On the next problem, they ask us to examine the mass of each item as shown below on the 1 kilogram scales. Put an X over the items that are heavier than the volleyball. Okay, first you got to figure out which one's a volleyball, right? So we've got a baseball, basketball, soccer ball. There's the volleyball. All right, so we've got 15 hundredths, 62 hundredths, 43 kilograms, and 43 hundredths of a kilogram, and 25 hundredths. And we are supposed to X anything that's heavier than the volleyball. Well, last time I checked, 43 is more than 25, so we're going to X that one. 62 is greater than 25, so we'll X that one. But 15 is not, so we won't X that. Now we get to do the baseball. The baseball has no ones. It has a 1 in the tenths and a 5 in the hundredths. The volleyball, 2 in the tenths, 5 in the hundredths. The basketball has a 6 in the tenths and a 2 in the hundredths. And the soccer ball had a 4 in the tenths, a 3 in the hundredths. They want us to use heavier or lighter in our statements down here. So our soccer ball is something to the baseball. Well, this is definitely bigger, so I'm going to say heavier. And yes, I should be able to spell it correctly. The word is right there on the page. The volleyball is something than the basketball. So I'm looking at the volleyball, basketball. The volleyball is lighter. Again, should be able to spell it. It's right there. Then we move over to the next page. We have some cylinders, and they've already given us the different amounts. They're not in any special order. And we have to decide the amount of the water on this chart. So cylinder A, we have nothing in our ones, we have 7 in our tenths. B, we have nothing in our ones, 6 in our tenths, 2 in the hundredths. C, you have no ones, a 2 in the tenths and an 8 in the hundredths. Letter D, you have no ones and 4 tenths, no hundredths. Letter E, you have no ones, you have 8 tenths, and you have 5 hundredths. And finally, letter F, no ones, 2 in the tenths, no hundredths. Okay, so now that they're like this, we can compare them. If we're looking at a 4 tenths of a liter versus 2 tenths, 4 tenths versus 2, well, obviously our 4 is going to be greater. If we're looking at 62 versus 7, it's really 62 out of 100. So we only have 6 tenths here. That has 7 tenths, so that's going to be larger. And if we're looking at 2 tenths versus 2 tenths and 8 hundredths more, the one that has some hundredths attached to it is going to be greater. Now they want us to write the volume of water in each granulated cylinder in order from least to greatest. So starting with the smallest, so as I look in here, 2s are the smallest. We have 2 with nothing and 2 with 8. So our 2 with nothing, that's going to be first, followed by the 2 that has something with it, right? Then there's no 3s. Next number would be 4. So we'll put our 4 tenths. After 4 would come 5. There's nothing with a 5. Then there's 6. After 6 would be 7. After 7 would be 8. Okay? If you wanted to put the little letters by them, you could. It went letter F, followed by letter C, followed by letter D, followed by letter B, then you had letter A, and last but not least, letter E. So really, it just kind of depended on whether or not you use the letter or the numbers. Again, I recommend lining up decimals so that you really can see if you're in the correct order. And that will do it for this lesson.